be the pillars of society. Family Fest, bringing healing and rest to hurting families, bringing help, hope, healing, happiness, bringing help, hope, healing, happiness, bringing help, hope, healing, happiness.
Hello and welcome to Family Fest Barbados 2025. We're excited to be here with you yet again, and we have an exciting topic, and not only exciting but integral. We are Family Fest, and so this evening's topic looks at bridging the gap and overcoming communication challenges in the family. We have three panelists here, all very equipped to handle anything that we throw at them this evening. So we'll put that to the test as we go through some of our questions. Very shortly, we have with us Tony Olton, Sinclair Brown, and Donna Tell Cox. I am Lisa Dahin, and I am excited and happy to be able to host this evening's discussion. So why are we here? Why are we looking at this topic? If you hear certain buzzwords all over, but communication is one that never stops being a buzzword because of its importance. Communication is that cornerstone of any relationship, and nowhere is it more evident than within the family unit. Poor communication, we know it leads to misunderstandings, conflicts, a breakdown in trust and emotional bonds. And families often face so many challenges that are exacerbated by communication issues. And we see issues like the generation gap. We're going to look at this, differing values, and then the external stressors. This panel discussion, we aim to explore the causes, the consequences, and more so, the solutions to some of the communication breakdowns that happen within families. We're going to provide some insight, some strategies that will help everybody to be able to foster healthier and more effective communication. So it is my pleasure to invite each of our panelists here. Some of them, if you've been following us very often on Family Fest, you know some of these faces already, but I still want them to just tell us a little bit about yourself, why, your view, the angle that you're going to be able to take this evening. So we'll just do that very quickly, and we're going to dive straight into our discussion. So Tony, your mic is already open. So I'm ready to start with you. Just give us a little picture of who you are and the angle that you will be able to come from this evening.
Who am I? Thanks and good evening, everyone. Thanks, Lisa. Someone who has lived life, who's been blessed with a long life, who understands life's ups and downs, certainly from his own perspective. And is at a stage in life where I want now to, they say that in life, you either learn from your own mistakes or you learn from the mistakes of others.
Okay.
It is always easy to learn from the mistakes of others. I'm blessed enough to be able to know to share back and say, look, if you go down that road, danger. So here's the road that you need to take, or here's some options you should consider.
Okay, excellent. And I know Tony's not going to throw in. He's a very modest man, so he's not going to throw in that one of his specialties is that of emotional intelligence, which is critical for this discussion here this evening. So we look forward to hearing your views along those lines. Mr. Brown, let's hear from you as well. Tell us a bit about who you are and your perspective.
Oh, good night, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Lisa. Who I am, I'm a counselor, I'm a therapist, Christian counselor, Christian therapist. I've been married for 21 years,
Nice.
3 sons, and a grandson. So very blessed to have the family. Very much passionate about the kingdom of God and how families, because I think one of the greatest evangelism tools is family. And I can see the destruction or the enemy using every system and tool to destroy families, by extension, destroying the kingdom. So I have a passion for assisting the kingdom and, I'm learning humbly through my own challenges and mistakes and through the Holy Spirit guidance to empower others for the kingdom.
Excellent, wonderful. Thank you, Donna.
Hi, Donna Tolcox. I am, first of all, I'm a parent, I'm a daughter, I'm a mother, I'm a wife. And along with all of that, in my profession, I'm a counselor as well. and I work with lots of families. My bend this evening, is to look at keeping things real. We tend to pull
Nice.
we tend to pull a lot of things from books. We are bombarded with lots of information from all over. But this evening, let's keep it real because that's who we're supposed to be. And if we want to have any solutions, we've got to find solutions in our realities. And that's my benefit.
Yes. Okay, great. So we're going to jump right in. And the first thing we're going to do, we're going to look at the causes. We're going to start with the causes of this communication breakdown. And you can decide which one of you, who wants to tackle a particular question. So here's the first one I'm throwing your way. What, in your opinion, are some of the common causes, or from your professional experience, the common causes of these communication breakdowns in families? I don't know if you're ready. I see you nodding already, Donna, like you have it there. But what are some of the common causes, the causes of the
I'll start with a few
communication
and then
breakdown?
I'll throw it out to the other guys. Unless I want to go first. But in my experience, a lot of the common causes tend to stem with lack of connection, appropriate connection. We have families, but many of the times we are within the home, but still isolated. Having all of these devices and walls between us does not help. So you will be seeing people and they will go up before your very eyes and you don't know who they really are. And because of that, we have our assumptions about who they are, and we have expectations of our family members that they don't understand, that they don't know because they don't know us either. And that's one of the main causes I'm finding. There are other things too, like general stresses of life, finances, the whole aspect of the work home balance tends to put a
Yes.
strain on family connections. But I believe that for this evening, keeping it real, the main thing for me is that connected with family. We do not know who the members of our family really are, even though we're living right next to them.
Okay, so there yet so far. So do you believe, and any one of you can tackle this one, do you believe that the generational differences actually impact communication within a family? I know you mentioned some others, but what about generational differences?
Okay.
Who wants to take this one? Any of the guys are ready?
Yeah, so for me, generational differences is a social construct.
Okay.
At the end of the day, human beings have some basic fundamental needs. And one of the most fundamental needs is the need to be understood. Is the need to be understood. Here, young people these days, you feel me? That's what I'm asking. Do you understand where I'm coming from? Yeah. I think to understand why we have the breakdown is to first understand what is the purpose of communication. We communicate to facilitate understanding. And so the disconnection that Donna talked about is the fact that I don't feel understood. And when I don't feel understood what I do, I pull back. And that will appear in several different forms. But the need to be understood is a fundamental need. Stephen Covey says that we need it as desperately as we need air to breathe. That the need to feel understood can equate to the need to breathe. And so what happens if you're in a space that the oxygen is being sucked from the room? How are you going to behave?
You're going to get frantic.
Yes. That when we have clashes in relationships, one or both parties in the relationship don't feel understood.
Okay.
In some matter, generally, or in some specific matter.
So we have that lack of connection coming out.
You feel me?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel you. The lack of connection, you need to be understood. Yes, Sinclair, you wanted to weigh in?
Yeah, I just want to join in and take the baton with Tony and add to that, feeling seen and heard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Feel heard and understood. And communication, I think when we do talk about communication, I think we spend a lot of time with verbal communication.
Yes.
And the truth of the matter is that non-verbal communication, depending on your study, is 60 to 70%. And we spend a lot of time, so in relationships, we always hear marriage and marital advice is communicate, communicate, communicate. People hear talk, 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 talk. So depending on who's the most verbal orator between the two, they spend a lot of time communicating. And the assumption is if I assume I'm an effective communicator, that one, I think that what I'm saying is being decoded in the same way and putting it and making an assumption that what is in my head is being transferred to the other party. And they're decoding it in that way. And the other assumption is if I effectively communicate that it means a change in behavior, which are different variables altogether.
Altogether.
And and the thing to be seen, heard, and understood, I think we've lost a lot of that art because what the mainstream is verbal communication and understanding and decoding words and body language. I think we've lost a community, and I think the social media and somebody out there is pushing an envelope to make us believe that we have gender issues or we have this sort of issue or we have generational gaps. There's always a generational gap. There will always be children don't born the same age as us. Your grandchildren are not born the same. So it's always a thing that people add titles to it. There's Gen X, Gen Z, millennials, and so the baby boomers don't like the millennials. And it is this construct that we are not putting in effort to learn language and understanding how we communicate. And just very quickly here, and I'll stop. Just to plug in here, like one of the things I think as Barbadians we have taken away, we have taken away something called our dialect. We make it seem if you use dialect, you are uneducated or you are dumb or something like that. And so, you don't speak like that. You went to this school but we should have two languages as a base level, standard English and dialect. Dialect should be a communication that we do personally. And then we use English language as a professional. Now, when we go into stores in Barbados, you'll find that, but I mean, not only Barbadians, they switch to their local dialect. And we have no idea what they're talking about. That is a form of intimacy. They could be there proud of people, but they could still be intimate in a space. We have lost our intimacy with each other. Don't need to talk the way it doesn't have to be educated, the way it doesn't have to be dot our I's and cross our T's. Can I be raw? Going from what Donna said, can I be transparent? Can I be naked? Can I be open? Can I be naked and unashamed? We are still putting on our mask. COVID is gone, but we still put our mask. Yeah. And that is affecting from my perspective, as I mentioned, the non-verbal to be seen, heard, and understood. And I don't think that we have allowed ourselves to have intimate discussions or the ability to have intimate discussions.
Okay. So what I'm hearing here though is speaking to I guess families having that deep connection because you talked about intimacy. And I just want to throw in a question here. I believe Donna may have hinted at it in what you were sharing. So it seems as if family members are maybe together, but they're not connected. What would you say as it relates to technology and its impact on families being able to communicate? Because we have chats, there are 4 or 5 of us in a family. We're all in the chat together, so we're communicating. Do you believe in any way this may contribute to communication right now?
You're in the same place. Used to be a time when you'd raise your voice, yell somebody's name, and you would see them. Now people are sitting at the table or sitting on a couch, and everybody is looking at their devices. And that's how they're communicating. Abruptly, they're not looking at each other. They could be 1,000 miles away. They could be chatting with somebody else. And people are sitting, waiting for little blue ticks. They're waiting to see if the other person has received the message so they get a response. Anxiety builds up. And we have a situation where people are literally addicted to the ticks. They need to get it within a certain framework of time, seconds, okay? But they're next to each other. And they will get up and go somewhere in the house and feel alone because they're sitting next to the person and they did not get that tick. That's an example of that lack of connectivity. The other problem with not being connected is that it is hard to accept correction in the absence of connection.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to get across to somebody else. You may be doing something, but you could do it in a better way, as opposed to you're doing foolishness all the time. Because the only thing they hear is you're doing foolishness. And for them, they're hearing, you don't like me, you don't appreciate me, you don't feel me, you don't hear me, I don't count. So that's one example, one little example of that.
You know,
Yeah.
I visited a place of business yesterday, really intent on doing business, but I walked up without doing it. Because I walked in and explained, my interests, and the person was engaging me. She had some cards, or she had a rubber band, so she's doing that, and then she's doing this, and she's doing this, and she's doing all kinds of. She's giving me information, but she's not connecting.
Yeah.
And so part of understanding that even though I may be speaking, but just giving out information and not communicating. So what she did last night, she was giving me information, but she was not communicating with me. She didn't feel me. So I said, can I think about it and get back to you? And walked out.
Well, because as I listen to all of you just now, what I'm realizing is that we're together, but are we really present,
We're not present.
and really engaging? So what does that lead to now? The consequences, what are the potential consequences now if this breakdown persists? So if we have these persistent communication issues in families, what are some of the consequences going to be?
All of the acts that we're seeing now. All of the acts that we're seeing now. A lot of what we're witnessing in our communities, in our families, in our places of work, results from persons not feeling heard, not feeling appreciated, not feeling valued. Yes.
So we're seeing it in the work community.
Yes, yeah. Because we're not paying attention. We're not really paying attention. We're not present. We're not in the moment. Yeah. So here I am, nobody's hearing me. Here you are, nobody's hearing you. We go through the motions and then we walk away from each other. Yes.
So then, go ahead, Donna.
People will feel anxiety, depression, shame, because they feel as though they are not valued. Nobody cares.
Yes.
And externally, it results in, you don't respect me, I'm not going to respect you. There was a song a couple years back. You don't like me, I don't like you neither.
Yeah.
Okay? And if you can't accept me, if you can't appreciate me, if you can't love me, I don't have to listen to you or respect you or care about you. And it's showing up as Tony said, in all of these different things that we're seeing now. In a robbery of people, old people, in the disrespect that schools and in other community areas like the hospital, the way people drive on the streets for no reason, just to cut others off because they can. Why? Because I don't have to care about you.
Because nobody cares about me.
Nobody cares about me.
Yeah.
Well, we're in a sad state. Yes, Sinclair.
We are.
Yeah, just looking at the reason, the title, Overcoming Communication Challenge in the Family. I think that obviously we talk about people not being seen and heard and understood. And if the home environment supposed to be, I think how God created is the number one place that we should be seen, heard, and loved.
Yeah.
And when we start in an environment where, be it single parent, be it whatever, I'm not saying like one is right and one's wrong. Because I was raised in a single parent home also. However, I can see the issues that those things cause because we are supposed to be receiving love from, the Ronadai staff, they comfort me. And if I'm not getting that love from the mother, even though she loves me, but it is not affectionate love. It is more of a practical love because she has to practically function to survive. So I'm not getting that emotive love. I'm not getting that masculine love. So then, even if I have siblings, depending on the amount of siblings, the culture of the home, I'm not seen and heard love. So I go outside of the space to be seen, heard, and love. And all depending on how I'm seen, heard, and love can lead to early teenage pregnancy, can lead to same-sex attraction, can lead to me being on the block, can lead to me shooting someone. The solution, I think, as far as communication, I think why most people don't have a healthy relationship with themselves, it is very difficult to have a relationship with others. We meet people where we meet ourselves. And the challenge in all of our relationships is we are always seeking to heal that inner child. And if that inner child has several deficits, the guy on the block, he becomes my father because I never had a male to love me the way I want to be loved or to give me correction. So people don't understand how the block works. And many times we're giving solution for the block. And I used to be on the block. So I listen to the solutions and I smile because I'm not trying to pour water on the solutions, but I know the solutions is not to solve the problem. Those solutions are just leaves and fruits, but they're not the root. Most males on blocks have father issues. They're looking for their identity. And
Absolutely.
when I could go on the block and I can get a new name. You know, my mother may name me St. Clair, but but on the block, they call me tall man. I would tattoo tall man on my chest,
Yeah.
right? And depending on who's my father on that block, who's the person who's my brother, the Bible says, somebody got a friend that closer than a brother. So inside of my household, I'm not seen and heard, but on the block, I got a man that's closer than my brother. I will kill someone for him. I will kill someone for my father because if these begin to, even if it's a negative seen and heard, even if it is unhealthy. And as the Bible says, turn the sons of the hearts of the sons towards the father, and the father's sons towards the heart, lest the land be cursed. And because many fathers are not present, the son's heart is looking for a father. And unfortunately, this is where we see some of the corruption occurring because in the family is the nucleus of where we have our identity,
Yeah.
where we get that emotional love. And sometimes I may just think lust for love. I may think kind for love. I may think niceness for love. I may think hospitality for love. And I think that's why communication is important and effective, which is not just words, but the entire person in the family.
I'd like to introduce two other aspects, trying to understand the problem with communication. Even when I am, even when I am well intended, there's an inherent challenge in my effort to communicate.
Okay.
We are social animals. My effort to communicate begins with a thought in my head, an idea, an emotion. Oftentimes, what I mean to say is not what I say.
True. True.
Because I don't want to hurt you. I want to say it, but I want to give it to you in ways that are digestible. And so the communication effort gets hampered because of our need to be social. So oftentimes what I mean to say is not what I say. That also contributes to the breakdown of communication. The second thing is, even when I'm well intended, I really, really, really want to hear where you're coming from. The challenge there in that circumstance is where I hear you, but I hear you in my terms of reference.
Okay. Yeah.
Here's what it sounds like. Boy, I remember when. Or if that was me. So I'm hearing you, but I hear you as I would see it and play it back and respond to it. So even then I walk away, and you walk away from me with a sense that, he didn't really understand me, or she didn't really understand me.
True.
Even when I'm well intended.
So we're going to get to some strategies and solutions shortly, but Donna, you weigh in there now.
Especially when Sinclair was talking about the block and the love for the block, all right? Where you find love. The families that I see today do not only have the younger generation looking for love outside of the home. The adults in the family are also looking for love outside of the home. So the home is no longer the nucleus for that connection and communication. And unfortunately, when it is found outside, it's difficult to translate the feelings of love for those on the inside where you should be connected. Taking away the language is something from a community, but taking away the language from the family in and of itself, because every family is a different culture.
True.
and taking away the language, whether it's verbal or non-verbal, from the family, because most of that energy is outside of the home. The only thing that it's like being in a hotel sometimes. You hear the people next door, you see the people in the quarters, you sit down with them, but you don't really know them.
Yeah.
You're going to gravitate where everybody knows your name, even if they give you one, because that then becomes your family. So imagine the young man or the young woman who goes on the block for family will have a child. What family does that child belong to? Really? I'm gonna stop now because you have other questions.
That's okay, because actually I think it was maybe Sinclair that touched on it a bit. So before we get into the strategies, because we've talked about what is wrong, but we have to look at how we're gonna fix it. Can somebody just tell us a bit about some of these signs that we see, some of the consequences? So this poor communication, the breakdown in the families, we heard a bit about the adolescents and the block and so on, but what about the young children? What are some of the consequences that we will see in very young children? Because we may have somebody who's watching this, who's listening and saying, well, everything is okay in my house, my family is good, but there may be things presenting with their children that they're not aware that, hey, this is a sign that something isn't good, something isn't going as well as you think it should be. So what are some of the consequences with children?
Children, very young children, under the age of 5,
Mhm.
can swear much better than they can say the alphabet. And the adults in and around those children, for the most part, they laugh. It's so funny until it becomes embarrassing when it happens in church or at school and they get a call. So that's one example. Very young children. We have to teach them how the words that they really need to say to express how they feel.
Mhm.
And a lot of the words that they will use for being angry, being hungry, being sad, being happy are all bound up in the same set of cuss words.
Oh dear.
That's one
Um,
example.
I stopped being amazed first couple of times it happened. Where we're doing our social emotional learning with 6, 7, 8-year-olds, the number of 6, 7, 8-year-olds who report anger as their predominant emotion, it is frightening. And it comes from that sense again that nobody understands me. Nobody cares. You'd be amazed the number of 6 and 7-year-olds who are reporting anger as a predominant emotion.
Yes.
No light bill to pay, tax, children to feed, but lacking connection, lacking understanding, lacking somebody acknowledging their opinions, their emotions. Yes, Sinclair.
I'm going to jump on you, Tony, about that statement you made.
Which one
As
is
a
that?
person with emotional intelligence and deal with as a counselor, we all know that we all go back to that childhood programming. And we all know we are programmers. So despite the fact that we all didn't have like no phone bills, taxes, whatever, that stress, that lack of whatever is the programming for the adult. So yes, while we may not have these stressors of life, it is learn that emotional flexibility that when we do get in that space that we can communicate our emotions. So we are stuck in these anger or sad or happy, these 3 basic, when you have like 8 basic emotions. If we can't get past the primary colors of emotions, we can't get into secondary and tertiary. So we have lost the ability to use our imagination to
Absolutely,
communicate. So reading is one of those things that always built our ability to use words to communicate from that inner child out. So now I can't communicate from the inside out, and I'm not able to decode from the outside in. So though we have eyes, but we can't see, and ears that we can't hear. So the child now has been given a tablet from the time it was 0. So it doesn't know how to use words to communicate, right? So now, even though I have an emotion, I don't know. I can't label that emotion. I don't know. So if I get surprised, I'm angry. If I get disappointed, I'm angry. If I'm annoyed, I'm angry. If I get, delayed gratification, I'm angry. So it's just this very primary thing, the inability to communicate basically the
Yeah.
difference between annoyed and furious.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So annoyed is furious, anger is furious, anything is furious, right? Surprise is furious.
Yeah.
So now there's a representation of several emotions because they don't have any way of communicating otherwise. And then parents
Yeah.
not having the ability to even do it themselves,
Mm-hmm.
which is now, yes, it is either party, curse, walk up, whatever it is, or here's a tablet to suppress. So the tablet, because we all know, oh, sorry, the thing about it is that the brain, for those that came from that reading world, that words was our way of escape. You would read and you would go to places, you know what I mean?
Yes.
You have to use
Use
that part of your
imagination.
brain to hear the voices of the characters or to see the pictures of the characters. Now, when you watch a video, somebody's creating voices, somebody's creating imagery. So when you watch the movie is not the same thing as when you read a book. So that muscle now is eliminated. So now I do not know how to express myself. So even when it comes to genders, wanting to say, oh, women are these people that are better to communicate their emotions, that is not true. Women are more expressive, but if you ask many women, tell me what you're feeling, they can't.
Yeah. Yeah. They can't name it.
They can't. They can be
Yeah.
more expressive or use more words and stuff like that. No, men are difficult in communicating their emotions. I know we're getting children. So we have parents that don't allow their children to be too happy.
To
Another
be
thing here, you're being too happy. You can't be happy.
happy. Okay.
Yeah, you can't be happy, you can't be sad, and therefore here's the tablet, here's this, and the child now is stuck in a world
Oh my. Like they're
where
just numb.
they're numb. And if we
Literally,
understand it,
literally.
they're numb,
Yes.
like they literally are numb. It
Yes.
cancels a part of the brain. The first 5 years of a child's life, you should never give it a two-dimensional screen. You
Wow.
should never,
You should
because
probably
it
say that
will,
again.
the first 5 years of a child's life, you should not give it two-dimensional screen. And those that created um, the tablet, the executives, they did not give it to their children. This is documented. They recognize this is a dangerous thing to a society. So now if I just have anger, so we don't understand the steps. And let me use the male gender here for a second. As men, we would express our anger, but it would go through different steps. Anger is not a bad thing. So we had to go through steps before we go into a fight. We went through steps of shouting, arguing, before we get into physical, before we're going to kill. Now
Yeah.
we don't have anymore. So frustrated is killed, annoyed is killed, disrespect is
Yes.
killed,
0 to
whatever is
100.
killed,
You
0 to
can have
100. That is not a man's muscle. That has never historically been a man's muscle, right? But we are no longer raised around meals. Our boys are raised inside of a bedroom with a PS5.
Yes.
So what is a good boy? A good boy is, oh, he don't be outside with bad company. He yes, he standard English. He doesn't communicate, and he plays on a virtual. So by the time he's a good boy, but he gets educated and he goes in the world, he doesn't make a good man. So either hides from any emotions, or he goes into 100 because he doesn't have steps inside of that programming. How does he communicate with his woman, his wife? He doesn't. But he learned not to communicate with his mother when he's angry. He had to keep quiet to be a good boy. No, he does the same thing. That doesn't make an effective man in that marriage. Do we have children? He doesn't know to connect with his children, be it male or female. I'm just using the men here, because they're both parties, but I'm just going to isolate the men for this particular,
Right.
I'm sharing. So we have no generations of the inability to communicate frustration.
Yeah.
Even you ask
Appropriately.
appropriately, right? So you just say I'm St. Clair and I started a 7 out of 10. Right? It's like I just call your name.
It's true. It's
You just
true.
call a name and all of a sudden, it started at a 7.
Yeah.
That tells you that they were raised in an environment that they had to be ready.
Yeah.
If mommy calls your name, she didn't call you to say love. She didn't call you to see how you're doing.
Yeah.
You leave them things the same, that's you had to start ready.
Yeah.
So now we just in a society and Mr. Olton called me name. Even in the workplace.
It's true.
Even in a relationship, wifey calls me, and she's trying to figure out why are you so aggressive? We have lost the muscle of basic human connection and the ability to communicate. And it's going to be a very difficult fight to get back there because of the social media, and or lack of attention. Let me just add one more thing, sorry. But when it comes to our children, they scientifically looked at how to keep our children's attention. So the CoComelon and all of those things have scientifically look and see any frame that they're showing a child does not last more than 3 seconds.
Yes.
So it's a changing angle, changing this, changing that every 3 seconds, less than 3 seconds, boom, 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 boom. That keeps a child's attention in that. So therefore, anything now that child comes away from that is longer than 10 seconds long is too long. So the ability to communicate and concentrate and be there and be present, or we as parents have doomed our children and they're bored. You could buy them toys. Children no longer, if you buy a little boy cars, he's no longer going vroom, vroom, vroom. You don't hear that noise anymore with our children, even with toys. And this is affecting our communication in the family.
I wanted to piggyback on something that Sinclair had said with respect to speaking and talking. I'm really into this talking thing. Used to be a time. Sorry, Tony, to say it, used to be storytelling.
Yes.
More than an art. And children would sit down around the feet of older siblings,
the grandmother,
father, mommy, daddy, whoever, for hours listening to what? Stories. Most of those people were not readers at the time, but they were great storytellers. And those little children would then act out those stories on their own when they were playing. So any emotions that they did not have words for would come out through play. So their bodies somatically were still getting a chance to deal with a lot of emotions. That no longer happens in our world. Babies are given cell phones with baby rattle apps on them. Babies are not, yes, rattle app, look it up, rattle app.
I'll write it down here.
Yes.
I can't believe it.
Even the act of holding on to something, shaking and going, oh, this makes it. Even that's being taken away. So the use of our bodies to get that nonverbal communication is being stripped from us as well. So beforehand, when you heard your name, you knew how it sounded. If St. Clair's mother said, St. Clair, Adolphus, so and so, so and so, so and so, so.
Yes.
In trouble then.
You were.
All right. But if she just said St. Clair, it's like, let me want something.
Yeah.
Give me something. You understood, but we no longer have that. And yes, I know St. Clair is talking about the effect of that on the males, but it's taking its toll on our girls as well. Okay. When you've got females who are going to look at a male and say, you're not a man because you don't choke me. You're not a man because you don't slap me. You're not a man because you don't call me the B word. You're too soft. I don't want you. Okay? That's the world we are living in. So when he is at home and his mother is saying, Matthew, I don't want to hear that because Matthew's too soft. Matthew have to get tough. Matthew have to become him the killer in order to attract and keep the female.
Wow.
So we're living in now. So when we talk about communication, it's not only what we may actually be communicating, whether it's on purpose or inadvertent, but it's the modes of the communication that we are using and have access to right now. I am older generation, and I've got many more modes of communication than a lot of the younger generation.
Yes.
I'm not saying they don't have any, but the access that I have is more easy than the access that lots of them have because, as Sinclair said, that muscle is not being exercised.
Oh my goodness.
And it gets worse with the use of LMAO and BRB.
Yes.
And, yeah,
there are so many of them. I have to get translations sometimes.
Yes.
So panelists, right? Oh my goodness, we heard so much about the anger. I think that's one, and I see it myself. I'm a teacher, so I see a lot of that. And sometimes I literally wonder, why are you so angry? You know, we're hearing so much based on what you're saying. Poor socialization seems to be coming out, father issues, a need for belonging. what are we going to do? What can we do? Because I don't believe it's hopeless. Family Fest is built on the foundations of God's word. So what steps can families take then to improve the communication skills? Let's give persons some help.
I think it starts with what I call intentionality.
Okay.
A recognition that each of us is different. We come from different spaces, we have different expectations. And that the only way I can really have a relationship with you is if I understand where you're coming from.
Right.
And so I have to be intentional and want to hear more from you, give you the opportunity to share and not pass judgment.
Okay.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
I really desire to have a meaningful connection with you, whether that be my child, my spouse, my friend, my sister, my brother. Really have a genuine desire to understand where the other person is coming from.
Right.
And to do that, then three things. One, to listen,
Mm-hmm.
listen to understand. Two, ask questions to clarify. Did I hear you correctly?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What I hear you say is, you seem to think, you seem to feel, you seem to prefer. Did I catch you correctly? To allow that space for
Yeah.
that clarity to develop. And the third thing to focus on is letting the other person know how honored they feel that they've gone to a place where they feel safe sharing
Yeah.
themselves with you.
Okay.
People need to feel safe. And if I'm going to add a fourth, that when people get to a place where they share that emotional space, to be able to hold their confidence. That's also
To be
going to be
able
important.
to
To
be able
hold their confidence.
Okay.
To
Okay.
hold
Yes.
confidence, yes.
Yes. Okay. Wonderful. Anybody else some steps or tools that we can give persons to help improve communication? Thanks, Tony.
I would have to say, first of all, family is where you belong. Everyone within the family needs to know that they belong there,
Mm-hmm.
right? They have a place there from the oldest person to the youngest person. And it's a place of honor. You're not here by accident. As Tony said, it's intentional.
Yeah.
And intentionally develop that connection. You connect with people in different ways. You can have a family of 5 children, and all 5 children have a different love language.
True.
Know your child's love language. When you learn your child's love language, they will learn your love language as well. It has to be intentional. And I'm not telling you to go out there and buy all these books. Okay. Right now, we're being bombarded with information from every corner of the globe, and still we are clueless.
True. True.
It can't come from instruction.
Mm.
Okay. It comes from within, right? Tony hit nail on the head when talked about listening.
Yeah.
Because listening is different to hearing. When you hear something, that makes you listen to
Mm-hmm.
clarification. Listen to what's going on, both verbally and non-verbally. The other thing that's very important is to understand that there are people outside of your family who want to create their own family with your members, whether it is the block, whether it is the school, the church, community. There are other people, the social media, there are other people vying for the connectivity of your family member.
True.
Be aware of that and make your family's sphere more salient, not
Mm.
things, but with that emotional connection. I don't have 6,000 friends online who care about me. I have 6,000 friends who are exposed to something that is through Wi-Fi. Let them understand the difference between family kinship, family
Right.
by blood, family without the blood. But most of the time, your family is a relatively small unit that you will, as St. Clair said, kill for, die
Mm-hmm.
for, give your last to. Let those feelings emanate from within the family that you were born into.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. Please know who you're making your family with. that is so very important that people never ever look at.
So true.
Who you're having your family with. Can you relate to that particular family's culture? Okay. I see it so often, right? You have a family of people who are just loud. Loud for them is normal. You have another family for whom solitude and quiet is normal.
Yes, yes.
The two of them get together, the poor child, okay, it's the language. But really and truly, know whoever you are going to be with, having your children, know what their family is like. In other words, take your time to form your family. That's another strategy going forward.
Yeah.
I'll share more with y'all later.
Just joining the two statements because yeah, those are very good principles. I just want to build on them as good foundations. And Donna said something there just now, and as a counselor, that is my heart's desire that we don't just build families because I love a person. That is not the environment to build a healthy relationship. I love you, you love me, yes, but in the as we are building on principles and ethics and morals and the environment to build this child in, right? Even from a Christian perspective, yes, we have to look and see, yes, we love Jesus, but is this person good with money? Is this person good with time? Is this person going to be a good mother or father? What I want this
Yes.
person to be my mother, what I want this person to be my father. We have to spend time investigating because yes, I can love Jesus, but it doesn't mean that I have the proclivity to build a healthy family. Yeah. And we have to start to look at this. And social media has always been a thing. The only difference now is that there's something else. There's a machine that controls the social media. Because just in the Bible where Saul, his IG account, there were thousands of women going like, yeah, Saul. But David had
Yes.
tens of thousands. So he was looking at the algorithms going like, David killing in these streets, like, you know what I mean? So he had more girls following him on IG than Saul did, and it did cause a problem, right?
Yeah.
But the thing, despite that, David had these tens of thousands of women on his social media, he was still alone. You know what I mean? He had all, as Donna was saying, like all of these people he had, but his family didn't, he didn't feel loved by his family. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So he's connected to a man who is a leader, Saul. He's serving this man, but the man throwing spears at him. And it's like, I would rather be with this person throwing spears at me because of the father figure that I have, you know what I mean? Even though this person seek to do me wrong. So he's even like could be on the block because I know this man doesn't do me well or whatever. It might be a same-sex thing where this older man is using me, be it male or female. I know it, but at least they're giving me something that I wish I had. And then even using David again, where he's closer to Jonathan than his brothers. He has 7 brothers. Like you're trying to meet none of them, none of my siblings like connect with, right? But it just shows you how alone and lonely we can be in the midst of tens of thousands coming from a large family, but we could be alone. And then understanding that while a family may not be doing it, I may be able to do it. Can I be a Jonathan to somebody else?
Right.
You know what I mean? Can I be that person that they can talk to? Because some families are crazy. We have to accept that, right? But can I, as the Bible says, can I love my neighbor as I love myself? But if I don't love myself, I can't love my neighbor. It's very difficult to love my neighbor. And I think that is where, to me, solutions look like. For those who have the emotional flexibility, for those who have the emotional intelligence, for those who are trained, it is a lot of work. But I teach to spread the training to keep spreading. Someone has been doing a lot of work for the last 7 years in emotional intelligence. But people do the system and do the course, but we're so selfish. It's about me. I've done the training, but what am I doing with the training? You know what I'm saying? Spreading it. Am I looking to implement it not just in my house, but in my workplace? Because the more emotionally intelligent I am, it means I have the ability to be more understanding. And I'm going to toss this one in here. We talk about love languages, but what personalities?
Yes. Yes. Oh, that's a whole
The
other
six of
panel
exactly,
discussion.
exactly. So once again, personalities in the home, personalities, streets, personalities in the household. But those that have the emotional intelligence, have the emotional flexibility, should be the
Yes.
ones know that could be a friend and a family member. And the need is going to be great. But I think that is a solution to get training, to get counseling, to get therapy, to be empowered as those that have the capacity so that we can be that person for others.
All right. So we have some feedback from online. So Sinclair, you're being told that You are correct as it relates to, the brain utilization and so on. And so we have agreement that there is a lack of the storytelling, the reading, religion, philosophy was mentioned online as well. And this is all stunting our children's development as it relates to their brains. So we do have persons, thankfully, who agree, who understand the importance of these things. And we were just talking about the strategies and the solutions. And everyone, we're coming close to the end of our time together. So we want to make sure at least some clear things come across. We have the intentionality, the listening. We want as a family to feel safe, prioritizing our family. But something when I listened to all of you, to me, it was summed up in time. The simple word time, spending time with our family. So I believe open and honest communication will come out in all of these different settings here. But my last, I would say, question for you here as a team, how can we really show that support? If you want to use a personal story, like your own lives, how can we really, how should I say, be dedicated or be intentional or find a way that I am going to see my family communication improve? Maybe you face a similar situation and you had to do it for yourself. So what can we do?
So I mentioned intentionality.
Yeah.
Seneca mentioned that we pick up more in our communication from body language. Yeah. We talked about what we really want to express our emotions.
Yes.
So here is a practical tool to take away.
Okay.
Be in the moment, be present, and listen with your ears. You're going to hear words.
Okay.
Listen with your heart. You're going to hear tone. And listen with your eyes. That if we consciously and deliberately, when we engage in others, bring all three of those into play: our ears, our heart, and our eyes, we will move significant distance in building that sense of connection. And people, when they engage in us, feeling that they're heard, that they're understood, and that we care.
Yeah, I like that. Love that. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tony. I'm going to share a personal one with a smaller child. My son, when he was about 18 months, 2 years old, I just finished mopping the kitchen floor, white tiles. I laid a little glass of Kool-Aid on the table, and I watched with my eyes as he swatted this thing off the table. So I looked and said, "Chris, what'd you do?" And he pointed down the hallway and he said, "Nikki," which is his sister. Now I know Nikki didn't do that. I saw him do it. I had to tell myself, this is not making sense, right? This little boy can't be telling lies. What happened? He says, Nikki. I said, "Nikki did what?" I went down to him. He said, "Nikki drank my drink." She used to tease him by nibbling at his food. So because she sipped it and ran, he didn't want it anymore. So he sorted it down. So I held his two little hands and I said, "Nikki drank your drink. How you feel?" And he went, And I gave him the word. I said, "You feeling angry?" He said, "Chris, angry." Yeah. I said, "Okay. So mommy's angry too." So you know what has to happen? What? Because now I have to change my tone because now it's a teachable moment.
Yeah.
I said, "You're gonna clean it up." So he clean. So he gets his big rag, and what he does is he's now moving this red Kool-Aid all over the kitchen floor. All right. So we're down there together on the floor. And he's cleaning and I'm cleaning up behind him. And when we were finished, I asked him if he wanted more Kool-Aid. I said, "We're not going to let Nikki drink it." And we laughed together. And that he didn't get into trouble for it. I had to understand, but it's because I realized his behavior was out of character.
Right.
As we say now, the math wasn't mathing. So when you see stuff out of character, that's also another sign. That's something you have to listen to, and don't go in with the same approach. Like if something has to be done, you're gonna pay for this. No, What happened? I'm listening. Tell me.
Yeah.
You help getting it out. I'll help you get it out. But you tell me. There's no reason to lie. And I think that's the foundation for the connections.
Yes. Beautiful.
I'm not sure
Thank
how you
you.
followed that one up, but that was beautiful. I could apply that in marriages all over the world. Put in a book, read a little, like who took my cheese, a little easy read, and like to be a millionaire. Um, no, the thing what the analogy that was given was giving the child the word, the ability to communicate what it was feeling, because the child had
Yeah.
no idea what it felt,
Yeah.
right? So therefore, as Tony said, I use the head, the heart, the gut, and the body as my four principles as a therapist. What I use. Relationship with self, the Bible says, love the Lord with all your mind, your heart, your soul, and your strength. And I use the mind is intellectual connection. I think one of the things that we use in marriage for instance, when I go to churches and I'm sharing, if we want to be a doctor, a pharmacist, a carpenter, we spend at least 16 plus years being educated. And then we add on to that whatever we want to study to learn in life. Yeah. So we spend a good 20, 25 years learning to be in a career that we're going to spend 40 plus years in. But we're going to get into a marriage or a deep relationship and we study nothing about it. That's well, tell me which book you bought about marriage. Tell me which book you bought about being a father. Tell me which book you bought about being. We just through osmosis assume that I'm going to be a good wife and I'm going to be a good husband. Never read a book, never studied, never passed a test, but somehow we get to drive the car without ever going to get a driving test. Zero. And then we wonder why we struggle in these marriages because we never studied it. Yeah.
Yes.
And thereby extension, we're coming from having generational issues. So let me take what Donna just shared, where the child knocks the cup down, here is Kool-Aid on the ground, mother is frustrated, beats the hell out of the child. And then we celebrate and says, you know what? By thank God for the licks I get from my mother boy, we actually celebrate crazy. Right? We actually tell people, them lashes I got, man, thank God for them or not, I would be in prison. My question to people when they say that if you were going to prison and the people that predominantly are there, people that never got lashes, then that should prove your point. Those people got roasted with dog hunters, with cat with all sorts of crazy things. So we have actually now perpetuated not learning how to express emotions. So you get lashes, and then when you cry, then you hear, shut up in here before you say to cry for.
Right.
So you know we have to learn something called disassociation. So not one, you didn't know how to express your emotion. So, here comes the little boy that knocks over the cup. We never investigated. We never had court. We do it in schools. Or we have this no fight in schools, which to me is crazy. It doesn't work because if I'm unfairing, I'm bullying Donna Tony at school all the time. I bullying they being good children. I don't care. But then Tony get up one day and give me a cuff. He spent 2 terms of me stealing his money, checking around. He gives me a cuff. 4 of us get sent home. Tell me how that is a solution. So we see now the perpetuation of Tony and myself graduating out of school without ever learning the tools of court. But what Donna did with your son was teaching him emotions, teaching him a feeling. What happened? Or somebody did something, you were expressing anger. Because Tony should never be expelled from school for giving me a cuff. Tony has been doing his schoolwork. As you said, is this character normal of Tony? He has spent the last 4 years in this school, never going to fight. St. Clair has been fighting for tiny land. How are we saying that both people, because Tony finally expressed himself of frustration? Now we see that behavior in our society. People that don't know how to express and deal with conflict. We don't know language or emotions and our feelings. So therefore, we are invited aggression. And it's not just in our streets. We only talk about the shootings, but we're not talking about the stabbings. We're not talking about the relationships in our homes, the verbal abuse, the emotional abuse, the financial abuse, the spiritual abuse. We're not talking about the toxicity in our society at a very high level, both men and women. Because women are violent against men right now. So the solution I'm saying is we as individuals, just like Donna did, I can't reach the whole world, but I can reach this one person. We may never own a church or we may never be able to speak from a pulpit, but I could talk to this one person. And that is my solution. Learning, being educated, going to Tony's courses. He does emotional intelligence courses, not just doing it to be a better husband, to be a better man, to be a better wife, to be a better woman, to be a better mother. And I think that that's my solution to us as a society.
And I'd just like to add one piece, Lisa, and that is once you step out on this journey to show up and do better, part of what facilitates more effective communication is when you can raise your hand and say, "No, I got it wrong," and apologize.
Yes.
You know? So even if Donna, without her training experience, didn't execute the way she did just now, once she comes to an understanding, then she go back to her son and say, "No, well, yesterday, last week, whatever it is, I said,
Correct.
and I'm thinking about it." I mean, that's so therapeutic for that relationship.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
I got it wrong. I got it wrong.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree wholeheartedly.
And to piggyback on what Tony said, when I'm dealing with parents, there are times when after I've spoken with a parent separately and spoken with a child separately, and I get them together and I give each of them the opportunity to forgive themselves for what they know that they have done wrong. And then once they can say, "I'm sorry" to myself, either the child within me or the baby within me, it's easier for them because now they have learned how to say, "I forgive." Then it's easier for them to look at each other and say, "I forgive."
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You guys have given us so much food for thought. And thank you to Wade Boyce. He joined us on Facebook and gave some input that I shared with you earlier. And our discussion today was on communication breakdown in the family, looking to bridge the gap. I believe we have some tools that we're going to take away and use for certain. So thank you so much, Tony Olton, Donatel Cox, and Sinclair Brown. I believe
Peace.
you can definitely write some books. And we encourage you to join us on Thursday. So on Thursday at 7 p.m., we're going to be looking at rebuilding trust, navigating infidelity and trust issues in family. Oh my goodness, I don't think an hour is going to work for us on Thursday. Our panelists are going to be Dr. Denise Charles, Reverend Anderson Kelman, and Pastor Derek Ward. So that is going to be an interesting one for sure. So we started with communication. We're going to work on trust on Thursday, and I'm excited to be with you on Thursday again. So this has been Family Fest Barbados 2025, joining you yet again, and we look forward to being with you again soon. Have a wonderful day.
Peace.
Bye.
We're Family Fest, giving our best, empowering families to be the pillars of society. Family Fest, bringing healing and rest to hurting families, bringing help, hope, healing, happiness. With God on our side, we're marching strong, looking out for hurting children all around. Bringing help, hope, healing, happiness.